Hello, in this video, we're going to discuss Chapter 9, Social Reaction and Critical Models of Crime. Instead of discussing social reaction, we're going to spend this video discussing critical models of crime. As with labeling theory that we discussed before, this particular theory argues that people do not become criminal because of their actions, but because of decisions that are made by people who are in positions of power, especially the criminal justice system. And this would include law enforcement, courts, and corrections. And so your critical theories of crime focus mainly on power and how power is exercised specifically across different economic class groups. At the heart of this perspective are the ideas that were created and made popular by Karl Marx, who was a German social theorist and revolutionary who founded what's known as Marxism theory. Marx argued that crime is a function of a capitalistic system. What is capitalism? Capitalism is an economic system that is designed around a free market system and capitalism. But Marx also argued that a key feature of capitalism is exploitation. Every system, according to Marx, every society, according to Marx, has a mode of production. A mode of production is what is used to produce services and goods. In a capitalistic society, according to Karl Marx, at the time that he wrote his ideas about Marxism theory, the mode of production was around factories. Factories were used to produce goods and services. According to Karl Marx, there are two types of individuals or two groups that exist in an economic system of capitalism. The first group are your bourgeoisie, and the bourgeoisie are a group of individuals who are wealthy and affluent, and they are the owners of the modes of production. And then you have the proletariat. According to Karl Marx, the proletariat are the working class citizens, or the blue collar workers. A mode of production relates to the idea of a factory system of workers, as I said before, and labor. And a mode of production that is used in any society defines the economy of that society. Then there's the mean of production, which is those who own production, who are the ruling class or the bourgeoisie, and those who operate and work, who are the controlled class or the proletariat. According to Marx, in a capitalistic system, there's a monopoly that exists, which allows the individuals who own the means of production and the mode of production to be able to exploit and control those individuals who are the working class or the proletariat. According to Marx, this system creates an opportunity for those who are the owners of the means of production to exploit those who are actually the proletariat or the working class. And because of this, there's a natural sort of conflict that exists between the proletariat and the bourgeoisie. Marx argues then that this creates a situation where there will be conflict, and that the individuals who are the bourgeoisie are the wealthy and affluent in a society can use their wealth and influence to control the criminal justice system in a way that it can be used against those who are members of the proletariat class. And Marx argues then that the criminal justice system is weaponized against the working class for the purpose of protecting the interests of the bourgeoisie. Several people who were mentioned in your chapter discussed this. Bonger, for example, argued that it is not the absolute amount of wealth that affects crime in any given society. It's the fact that wealth is unevenly distributed. And because wealth is unevenly distributed and a minority of people control the wealth in a capitalistic society, then what happens is that people will attribute a person's worth to how much wealth they have. Those who have lots of money will be seen as superior, whereas those who do not have lots of money will be seen or viewed as criminal and prone to commit crimes. When this happens, the economic system will intensify personal disadvantages and will increase the propensity to commit crime because those individuals who do not have wealth will begin to view themselves in a negative light. They will begin to view themselves as inferior, and sometimes they'll start to act out those views of themselves. And so you see some shades of labeling theory here in Bonger's ideas. Then we had Richard Quinney, who also had ideas, and he argued that essentially what happens is that in a capitalistic society, the economy is basically the foundation of the type of society. And because of that, individuals who have wealth will control how the government operates. And because of that, the government or the state then will operate to serve the interests of the capitalist ruling class rather than the interests of everyone. Richard Quinney goes on to argue that criminal law is merely an instrument of that class to perpetuate the current social and economic order, so that laws don't necessarily operate in the best interest of everyone in the society, but instead laws operate to serve those who are wealthy and affluent. Those individuals can then use the coercion and violence that is evident in the criminal justice system, specifically when we're talking about laws as well as law enforcement, to oppress and control the lower classes. And then finally, George Voigt and Selin both made similar arguments. They argued that in a society, or any type of society, specifically a capitalistic society, there will be different interest groups. And these different groups have their own specific agendas, their own shared needs, values, and interests. And what happens in a capitalistic society like this with these different groups that have different interests is that sometimes their interests will conflict with one another. And because of that, each group is competing with the other groups for the purpose of controlling the political system so that they can have their interests met and served. And that many times what happens here is that that also creates a type of crime, types of crimes. And your textbook talked about the different types of conflicts that will occur that were laid out by George Vogt. So there are 4 types of crimes. Those types of crimes that arise from political protest, and we've seen that recently. The crime that results from labor disputes, crime that arises from disputes between and within competing unions, and then crime that arises from racial and ethnic classes. There is one policy implication that is pushed by Marxist theorists and conflict theorists, and that is to destroy the capitalistic system and replace it with a system where wealth is evenly distributed. A system in which wealth is evenly distributed is a system of socialism or communism. Please read over the textbook, and thank you for listening to this video.